I want to share with you another wealth secret, and that is habits. Now, you're going to say to me, honest, but I know that we need to have the right habits. But sometimes we do not understand. We are not aware of how our habits can keep us from having financial success. So, the moment that we become aware of the habits that keep us from financial success, then we can replace that with better habits. The moment that we change our money habits, our investment habits, then our life is going to change. Let's imagine for a moment that it is as easy to change your future as it is to change your habits. So all you have to do is to change your habits. So if we think about it, there's this law of cause and effect. And the effect that we've got at the moment, wherever you may be financially, is caused by a lot of actions that you've taken in the past. And those actions are most probably based on your habits, on the way that you think, feel, and do. And it's in the doing, it's in the actions that you're taking where we can see what's going on in terms of the emotional, as well as in terms of the mental, the thinking process. And as soon as we become aware that that habit's not going to help us, then we can do something about it. But what if we are conditioned to believe that something is right, but it's in fact hurting us? And this is what is happening in the system. And that is why I think it's so important to start looking at your habits and the way that you manage your money, your wealth, your investments. Simply change your habit, identify which habits are keeping you from not moving ahead in life, and then change them. This video today is all about habits, and I'm going to focus on one or two, because if we can identify just one bad habit that is keeping us from moving forward, and then replace it with a better habit that's going to excel the process forward, then our lives are going to change. Let me show you what I'm talking about and how you can completely turn your life around by just becoming aware of your habits. Now, one of the things that I want to stress before we really start with this is that be careful to change a habit. I'm not talking about massive changes, because the moment that we do something massively, we are going to be totally out of our comfort zone, and then we will not be able to form that habit. But if you do it on a consistent basis, that's what it's about. And make it a daily routine or a daily habit. That is what's going to change your life. Let's dive in. But before we do that, I'm Dreyer. I'm the founder of the Wealth Creators Method, where we help entrepreneurs and investors to create, to grow, and to protect their wealth by applying the Wealth Creator strategy. Now, this is a very powerful strategy, and I'm going to touch on it during this video. But the strategy basically says it's to go from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest possible time with the least amount of risk. Now, your habits can be the risk. So if you've got a bad habit and that habit is keeping you from moving forward in life, we need to identify it, because what is risk? Risk is when we do not know or do not understand what we're doing. So if you're busy with a habit that is not helping you to move forward, the outcomes of that is, if we do not understand that by giving our money, we may save on a regular basis, as an example, and put it in a unit trust, and it becomes a habit because we do it each and every month. But what if that habit is actually designed by the financial system in order to keep you poor without you knowing it? Then a habit that seems like a good habit may not be a good habit. So we need to identify risk. And risk is when you do not understand what you're doing. Plus, another part of this, how do we offset the risk? Because it's no good to just identify something that is keeping you from moving forward in life. What is it that you can actually do in order to start the process? Because most of the time you're going to find that to form a habit, the first couple of weeks or days, that's going to be the most difficult. But as soon as you're in the habit, then it becomes easier and easier. The Wealth Creator strategy is designed to focus on the risk. The moment that we understand the risk, then we can hopefully do something about it. Now, if you like the content that I'm giving you, please consider giving me a like, maybe subscribe to my channel, because we do this on a regular basis. And you'll do me a great favor if you can share this with other people because it's going to help the algorithm. Because in general, people do not understand how wealth is created. And wealth is skill-based. And in order to gain a skill, we need to form habits in order to form that skill. It's going to take time and practice in the beginning. But once it's a habit, it's going to be very easy. How important do you think it is for us to have the right money and investment habits? I think it's crucial. By adopting good habits, that will change your financial future. Now, if you're not going to be in charge of your money, you're going to find that money has got the ability to vaporize, to go up in smoke. It's like smoking a cigarette. Once you see it, you've got the money. And at the end of the day, when you're done, you're going to find there's no money. And a bad habit is basically like smoking. Not to say that you don't enjoy it, but I'm going to show you a little bit later on what it can cost you. And then maybe you will change that bad habit into a great habit. And there are ways to do it. Habits have got power over our financial decisions, knowing or unknowingly. If I'm giving my money away, that is a habit, to someone like an expert that is going to give me a great return like 15%, that's a habit. But that habit is not necessarily a great habit. A better habit would be to learn how to get the growth on my own investment and by being in charge, because then I can identify the risk and learn the skills to offset the risk, and I can learn the skills to get better growth. But the moment that I'm in the habit of giving my money away to someone else, I cannot learn those skills because I do not know the risk that I'm taking, except that I'm taking all the risk. So habits, it's a powerful, powerful tool that either the system can use against you or that you can use in order to get ahead in life. Long-term stability comes from maintaining healthy financial habits. We're going to find that success leaves clues. So if someone is successful in their investments or handling their money, it's going to show up. But people that are not successful also leaves clues. So all we have to do is to go back and say, okay, but what are these people doing that are not successful? And what are the people doing that is successful? And then we're going to find that there's a massive difference between great habits and bad habits. And that is one of the main reasons why I believe that the majority of people around the world suffer, because they've got bad habits. And they, most of the time, not even aware of it, because it happens on a subconscious level. Successful habits is going to give you the outcome, and unsuccessful habits is not going to give you the outcome that you want. And that's going to lead to financial struggle and so forth. Let's look at one or two key habits. If you want to get ahead in life, it means that you must have a budget. Now, I know that you've heard this many, many times, and there are thousands of articles written about a budget and courses around a budget. But I don't think that we understand it, because everything starts with a surplus. If you want to get financially free, then you must have a surplus. You must have a place to start off with, and that's going to show up in your budget. Now, there are two ways that we can start the process. You have to budget in order to see what is left, and that is left becomes your surplus. But that is going to become your savings. The trick about savings, and this is another habit, just to save money, that may sound like a great habit, but by saving money, nothing is going to work, because your money must work for you. In other words, you must use this habit of saving money, and then on top of that, add another habit, and that is to grow your money. In other words, to become an investor. Now, before we carry on, I see that people don't get this, and it's a habit that I've started forming in 1987 when I discovered the following formula. And that is that your IGR, your investment growth rate, must be bigger than your FFGR. Your FFGR stands for your financial freedom growth rate. How does it work? Let's get back to the strategy to go from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest possible time with the least amount of risk. So we need to identify, but where do I want to be and in what time frame? Say, for example, I want 10 million and I want it in 10 years' time. for a specific goal. Now, I need to go back and say, but what do I have? Let's assume I've got 1,000 Rand per month. So what growth must I get? By the way, the 10 million, that is my freedom number. And then what growth must I get over 10 years, compounded yearly, basically on 1,000 Rand per month? And if you're going to calculate it, it's about 65%. So now that I've got it, now for the first time, can I define if I'm a good or a bad investor? Because if my investment, my 1,000 Rand, gives me more than 65% growth, I'm successful. In other words, I'm progressing towards my goal. Earl Nightingale says success is a progressive realization of a worthy goal. As long as we're above 65% and we measure that, we are going to achieve our goal. To become successful, I need to get the right information, the right order for the level of the game. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, because they listen to people that's already been successful and they try to form the habits that those people at that level that they are doing. And for a person that's on a level 1, if we can say there are 7 levels, where level 7 is the highest level financially that you can achieve, where you've got all the skills to make as much money as you want, starting with nothing. And the level 1 is where you've got absolutely no skills by giving your money away to someone else. So if you're at the level 1 and you try to implement what they are doing, the habits that they have at the level 7, you're going to understand that it is impossible. So we need to go back to, what do you have? In my case, when I started, I had X amount of money and I set a goal. In other words, my investment growth rate must be bigger than my financial freedom growth rate. Now, what's your investment growth rate? Let's quickly check. The financial freedom growth rate is what you must get. That's the benchmark. Your investment growth rate is how hard is your money actually working for you. So here we see how hard it must work, and your investment growth rate is how hard it's working. If you've got a pension fund, a provident fund, a retirement annuity, or a unit trust, you can measure that growth. A habit that I've taught myself was to simply ask the question, if I need 65%, but someone comes to me and they say that they can help me to achieve financial freedom. I know my financial freedom growth rate is 65%. Every time that this happens, I'm asking the same question. Okay, show me the growth over the last 5, 10, and 15 years. If that growth is less than 65%, I know that I'm going to waste my time and my effort to even listen to the person. And just that habit of asking the right question, because I know my financial freedom growth rate, has saved me tons and tons of money and time and effort and blood and sweat and tears. And maybe it may be a good thing for you to start doing this exercise and to say, okay, but let's see, what's my financial freedom growth rate? And every time that you've got an investment is to compare it to see if this thing is going to help you or if this thing is going to keep you away from achieving your goal. Because if you've just got 1,000 Rand and you're getting 15%, you'll never get to that goal. This brings us back to another habit that I've got. I'm tracking all my expenses because I want to see what's going on. Because in my business or in my property or in my cryptos, I need to get a growth, but I need to track the expenses, both in my investments as well as personally, so that I can stay within my budget. Because I've seen so many people that has got the habit to live above their means. In other words, they earn $1 million, but they spend 1.2 million because it's easy for them to get credit. So that bad habit of living beyond your means that you will not move forward. And another bad habit that I see that people have got, and I'm sharing this with you, hoping that it may help some of you, is that here they've got like an investment in unit trust, 1,000 Rand per month. But here they've got an overdraft that is costing them 1,000 Rand per month. We think we are moving ahead in life, but the interest on this overdraft or this credit card, that is eating all the growth that we may get up. And then that growth is not going to be enough in order to be 65%, because the last time that I've looked, there's about 1,700 plus unit trust here in South Africa. Now, We can't compare them all because most of them are new. But if we look at those funds that are in existence longer than 10 years, we're going to find that the top 1% will not give you a 15% growth. Yeah, I'm getting 15%. Yeah, I'm paying 18%. There's no ways that I can move forward in my life. You need to have the habits to track not only your expenses, but also your growth. And you have to do it. And I see so many people, what's the growth on your investment? I don't know. I've got this unit trust. It's worth so much. What's the growth? I don't know. Your pension fund, they're working very hard. They've got no idea what the growth is on the pension fund. In other words, someone else can steal your money, but you don't know it simply because you're not in the habit of querying your financials. So let me give you maybe more, let's call it practical stuff in order to form the right habits. The first thing that I would do if I were you is to start setting clear, achievable financial goals. In other words, Earl Nightingale says success is a progressive realization of a worthy goal. So the moment that I've got a financial goal, let's say 10 million, just to make things easy, and I want it in 10 years. Now, is it achievable? Well, let's check. If I'm going to give my money to someone else at 15%, it will never be achievable. What do I need to get? 65%. For most people, it's not going to be achievable because they've never learned the skills to lower the risk and to get the higher growth on their money. And therefore, to them, it's not going to be achievable. But here's the trick. I want you to ask the question, are there people that with 1,000 Rand per month has made 10 million? And the moment that you can find people like that, then you know it is achievable. So at the moment in our mind, it may be, no, it's not achievable because that's our belief system. We believe what the financial industry are telling us, but it's not the truth. And therefore, it takes a habit to see and to go out and look for other people that has actually done it, because now it reinforces this idea and concept that if I've got their habits and I'm doing what they are doing and I'm following these systems through a habit, then I must get the same outcome or better than what they've got. So it all starts with setting a clear, achievable financial goal. But be careful for the word achievable. It's not to say that if it does not sound that you can do it, that you can't learn it. In my case, it's very simple. I've said that that's the goal that I want. This is the money that I've got. This is the growth that I need. And then because in 87, I developed the Property Pro investment system, I could see that it is possible to get a 65% plus growth on my investment. This means that by checking it, by going back to another habit, by regularly managing this, I could see if this property on a year-to-year basis and a 6-month basis and a month-to-month basis, if I'm on track to achieve my goal. And that is why the achievable, the IGR, this that I can really get from my investment is so great. But it's no good to get into that investment and then not check, because every year the goalpost is going to move another 5 years, at least for me in property. I buy a property based on 5 years figures, and then I review it a year later to see for the next 5 years, will I still be able to achieve that goal? And for the last year, have I achieved that goal? Because if not, I need to do something about it. At least in my case, it became a habit to study financial matters. But I'm not talking about getting more degrees, financial degrees and stuff. I'm talking about real life. I'm talking about things like your own business, things where you're in control, like a property. You need to educate yourself so that you can have the skills in order to be able to get your financial freedom growth rate. And then we have to review this on a regular basis to see if we're on track or not. And then one thing that worked for me is the moment that I have to change something dramatically, I know that I'm going to be out of my comfort zone. And if you make major changes in your life, you're going to find, and I've seen, that the chances that you're going to stick with it over a long period of time is not going to be great. I see so many people, they start with a course or they start with a book, but because there's no habit that sustained that growth, they just give up and they look for the next thing, that next silver bullet. It's not going to work. You need to start small and then start building. And this is why I like the formula so much. To go from where you are to where you want to be, if I know 65%, 65% growth on 100 Rand is 65 Rand. That's nothing. But 65% growth on 10 billion, that's a total different story, because we're running into the scene of complexity. There's a ton of new skills that we need to have. And that is why there are very, very few people that knows how to achieve it. But they are. If you look at Elon Musk and you start with what he started with, or Warren Buffett, you're going to find that those people can maintain that over a very long period of time. Start small, but build gradually. That's what I'm referring to. And then another thing that works for me is to focus on one habit at a time. It's no good to try 20 habits at the same time. The brain, unfortunately, the way that we are set up and that we operate means focus on one thing till you get it right. And then you stack the next skills that you are going to develop on top of that one to amplify and to enhance that skill. That's the way that I'm doing it. Now, let's make this practical. Very, very practical. In the beginning, I said that money has got the ability to go up in smoke. Let's take cigarettes. Let's assume that you are in a habit to smoke one packet of cigarettes per day. I think the cost may be around 30 Rand. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's a habit. And we even assume that you enjoy the smoke for whatever reason. I'm not smoking, therefore I can't talk. But I've seen other people, they say, no, they like smoke. But I'm not so sure that they really like it, but they are used to it. We call it a level 3 experience, where it feels good to you, but it's not good for you, not good for others, not good for the greater good. But you are going to continue doing that. What's that habit going to cost you, let's say, in 10 years' time? 30 Rand per day. That simply means there are 365 days, which means that it boils down to about 11,000 Rand per year. To some people, depending on how much money you're earning, it may be a lot of money. That boils down to 912 Rand and 50 cents per month. Let's assume you identify that and you are prepared to give up this habit. Normally, we're not going to give up a habit for another habit if the second habit, the good habit, is better than the old habit. Okay. So in my mind, if I were you, and I've done it in other areas of my life, I'm going to say, okay, but in 10 years' time, I'm going to exchange absolutely nothing, totally nothing. Remember, you've got the money, you are paying 912 Rand per month, but then it goes up in smoke. So you've got nothing left at the end. And with most investments and cars and property, it works that way, but we don't see it that way because we don't understand it. And therefore, we are taking the risk. Now, at 65% growth, which means that you have to learn the skills. No one else is going to give it to you. No one else will give you that growth unless it's a scam. So in 10 years' time, on 65%, you'll have 9,437,000 Rand. 9 million. Now, I've explained this over the last 22 years to my students in different courses, and I can't tell you how many students, simply because of this, stopped smoking. And I can't tell you how many students became super successful by changing one small habit. They saw that 10 years ahead is more important than having a habit where they take money literally and burn it. Now, you're going to say, to be honest, but I don't smoke. I am 100% sure that if you're going to look at your habits that you're doing on a monthly basis, you're going to find a lot of money that is just blowing up in smoke. And there are a ton of other examples. Let me give you another one. If you are in the habit of giving your money away to someone else, and now, because of this, you go back and you say, okay, what's my growth rate on that, the real growth that I had on my money? And you find out it's negative, or maybe it's 5 or 10%. But you know that you need 65%. Are you going to carry on with that habit? Just like the smoke story, I'm sure that you're going to say no. But it's not going to work that way because most people are not willing to take responsibility to change their life, to take the responsibility to learn the skills. And I hope that this starts the process for you to think that this habit that I've got, that maybe I feel good, or that other people say it's a good habit, like investing money in let's say, endowment policy or a retirement annuity that's giving you 12 or 15% if you're seriously lucky, it's never going to help you to achieve your goal. Another thing that I see very often is where people say, honest, but 65% is ridiculous, or 55%. With property as an example, you can decide what your financial freedom growth rate must be, and then find properties by going through the system, learning the skills that's going to give you that. So to get 65% on property for the first 5 years, based on your investment, if you do it the right way, according to the wealth creator strategy, it's not going to be difficult. I know it may sound difficult because you've never experienced it, you've never seen it. And in our perception, other people will tell us it's impossible, and then it becomes impossible. But it's not impossible because thousands have actually done it. And that is what I'm referring to. So with property, up to about 100, 105% for the first 5 years, it's not that difficult. After that, it becomes extremely difficult, and you need to have a lot of skills to be able to offset this ceiling of complexity. Because the moment that you've got a lot of equity stuck in a property, it means that that equity can only grow one way, and that is with the growth of that property in that area. We call it capital growth. But capital growth is one of 27 variables. And if you don't understand it, and you don't know how to do the calculation, and you haven't got the skills, then most people rely on just one variable, and that is capital growth. Or maybe get some income. But if you don't know how to do the sum, there's no ways that the average person will be able to get this unless they are extremely lucky. At the moment, I'm busy with another challenge, and this is not only related to property, but relating to the wealth creator strategy. You see, to offset risk, the only way that I can do that is by having the skills. And there are 4 high-value skills that we are teaching in the wealth creators method. And that is high mental skills, which your habits are mentally, right? And if that is not in place, the rest will never be in place. And then high income skill, high business skill, and high investment skill. Once you've got these 4 skills and you know how to stack them in the right order, because to become successful, I need to get the right information and skills in the right order for the level of the game that I'm at. And then I have to apply it to measure the result. If the result is more than 65%, I know that I'm on track if my goal is 65%. If it's lower, I know that I can do something about it by grading up my skill levels. Now, the beauty with property, you can see this before you actually buy that property. That's why when I started, I analyzed 133 properties with hundreds of thousands of different permutations between them before I bought my first property. Now, most people are not going to do it because they're not in the habit, and they do not have patience, which is a habit. But I saw that for that amount of money, if I could find that property, and I knew it must be there because other people have done it, then I'm on my way. And that's one of the reasons why 7 years later, we were financially independent. So this is what I'm referring to with the property. But once you put all these skills together, I'm busy with the challenge where I said that I'm going to challenge the best fund managers in the world based on 500,000 Rand, because a client gave 2 experts 500,000 to see what's going to happen over a 5-year period. The one guy says take it overseas, and the other guy says no, here in South Africa. But then I took on a challenge and I said, by applying the wealth creator strategy, I'm going to outperform them with 100%. I send it out to my database and everyone that wants to know on YouTube and Facebook. But the trick is not to start with 500,000 because the risk is too high. Because if you've got the skill, you don't need money. And I said that I'm not going to invest more than 100 Rand. So the 100 Rand that I've invested with no security, with no other people's money, with none of the nonsense that you learn from so-called gurus, that money within 2 years was worth more than 4 million Rand. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to get to 20 million, but that's the goal. I also said that I'm going to turn that 100 Rand into at least a 10 million property. At the moment, we are looking at those properties in order to get them for 100 Rand. This is the power of what the right habits will give you. Because another habit that I've got is that I will do all my homework and do the sums. And if I do not get the right property that's going to help me to achieve my goal, I walk away. It's a habit. So I'm prepared to put in the time and the effort to analyze it, because I know that if I pick the wrong property, my dream is gone. And maybe it is a habit that you can learn, is to say no. If something does not give you that you need, say no. If someone comes to you with 1,000 Rand per month and they can give you 12% that they can't even prove, and that is no guarantee for the future, say no. If someone say, yes, a smoke, a cigarette, say no. Luckily, I've learned that very, very early in my life, about in standard 7 those days. What's it, grade 9 today? But I'm glad that I've learned the skill to be able to say no. And to say no to most things in life is difficult. But once it's become a habit, no one is offering me a cigarette. They know I'm not smoking. But the moment that you're on the sideline, it's easy to tempt you. And if you say no, it's no. And then you stick to it. I hope that helps. So what's a call to action? I want you to go through your budget, right? In your budget, simply identify the things that you are spending money on. And then ask this question: what is your financial freedom growth rate? And then go and compare every single investment. Say, for example, you've got 5 retirement annuities, one with Sanlam, one with Liberty, one with Momentum, to diversify risk, which, by the way, is nonsense. But on each and every one of those, go to the broker or the advisor or go to the company and say, okay, but what is my growth on that? They most probably, if there's inflation linked or index type of premium that increases with inflation or part of inflation, they're not going to call it compounded growth. They're going to call it your internal rate of return. It's the same thing. So ask them, what is my internal rate of return, my IRR? If that IRR is less than that you need, you know it's not a great thing. But here's the thing. The habit is to start querying every single thing, like my unit trust. What is my growth on my pension fund? No problem if you've got a pension fund and the growth is negative, because most people can't do anything about it because it's compulsory. But now I know that portion of my savings that I've got, because it's actually coming out of your savings, your surplus, that portion I can't include to calculate the growth that I'm going to get. So you exclude it completely. It's going to be a surprise bonus if you stay with the company. So that is the call to action that I'm asking you. And then consider small steps, things that are essential. In my case, I realized that even though I was studying and was a financial advisor and I studying to become a certified financial planner, I realized that this habit that I had to learn the financial system, the way that the financial system wants me to understand it, it's not going to help me. I need to learn how money really works. And the moment that you get into that, you're going to find that we know nothing about money, and that is why they can mislead us. If you understand the concept of money, the governments are creating money out of nothing. When I say to my students, we can start a business, apply the skills that we've got to start a business with no money, with no security. People say, no, it's impossible. If you look at the banks, where do you think they're getting the money from? It's not their money, it's your money. And then they get that money. But we don't understand money because we've never learned. We understand what they want us to know, but we need to do it in the right way by querying it and getting into it and putting the time to invest in yourself first. Once you understand yourself, the mental side, then you can start. If you cannot change a habit, my friend, how on earth are you going to change your financial future? Because your financial future depends on your habits today. And the habits that you've got is because of what you've done in the past. And that's going to keep on happening until you change. And the easiest thing to change is to find a habit, just one, and then say, okay, I'm going to not do this anymore. This applies not only to money, it applies to health. It applies to relationships. It applies to every one of the 7 areas of life. But you have to start somewhere. Start small. Don't put aside 3 hours per day. Put aside 15 to 20 minutes per day to start with this process. No more than that. But if you're going to continue doing this every single day for the rest of your life, you're going to find that your life is going to change. One of the courses that I've got that I'm helping people is called the 91 Perfect Day Challenge, where for 91 days, we need to do, let's call it a ritual. It's taking about 5 minutes, but you will not believe the changes that happens with people that has done the 91 Perfect Day Challenge. And then they continue with that. So if you found value in this one, please like, share, and tell other people about it. But in the comment section, why don't you share maybe one of the habits that you've got with the whole group? Because now it's about accountability. And tell us what you're going to change. And then come back to this video and say, okay, a week ago I said that I'm going to change this. This is what I've done. Sometimes we're going to be successful. What if you miss out on a day? So what? Then simply continue. But the moment that you start missing 2, 3, 4 days, then it's going to become a problem. But that's not really a problem because you make a commitment and you start again. It's crazy how simple it is to become rich. But rich is going to depend on habits. I just wanted to give you like an introduction to how important I think habits are. So if you want to learn, by the way, how I've turned 100 Rand into more than 4 million in 2 years, then in the description area below this video, somewhere on this page, you're going to find a link to book for a masterclass called the 500K Masterclass, where I'm changing 100 Rand into 10 million property portfolio and then into cryptos and stuff that's going to give me hopefully 20 million over a 5-year period. So look for those links, click on that, book for your seat, make sure to pitch up, and I'm going to see you there. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you then in the next video.